During an interview that aired Sunday on NBC's Meet the Press, President Donald Trump expressed his confidence in the Republican Party's ability to pass the big, beautiful bill, which he called the most consequential bill in the history of our country. The president's optimism precedes what will likely be a week of negotiation on that budget reconciliation measure, a version of which currently sits in the U.S. Senate. How might Republicans come to terms and pass the budget? Well, here to discuss this and much more is U.S. Senator Roger Marshall from Kansas, who serves on 4 Senate committees, including Finance and Budget committees. Senator Marshall, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, Tony, it's great to be with you, and I can't wait to get this big, beautiful bill across the finish line for the president.
Well, let's talk about it. How's it looking?
Yeah, well, it's an uphill battle. There's no doubt about it. I want to emphasize, look, President Trump did what he said he was going to do. He secured the border. He's rolling back regulations. Our families are safer, but now it's time for Congress to deliver. I have a lot of confidence in Speaker Mike Johnson, Jody Arrington over there in the Budget Committee. Those folks, I think they're doing great work. I think we'll get it done. But there'll be a little bit of hair pulling yet to get it all the way across the finish line.
All right, Senator Marshall, also want to recognize you are a medical doctor. You have delivered over 5,000 babies, so health care is something that's very near and dear to your heart. I want to play a clip that comes from Fox News over the weekend. DNC Chair Ken Martin making the claims that Republicans are going after Medicaid and cutting Medicaid and medical funding. Play clip number 4, please.
Donald Trump made a lot of promises to Americans last year, and this budget that he's bringing forward is actually going to increase prices for most hardworking Americans. That's where we're focused on right now. This budget he's bringing forward, which is going to cut Medicaid, all to give a tax break to the richest people in this country and corporations, and not helping hardworking Americans again.
All right, you're not sitting there on the Sunday shows commenting. You're actually in the trenches doing the work. How do you respond?
Well, first of all, what's going to happen if we don't get this bill done is your listeners are going to have an increased tax amount to $2,000 to $3,000 per family. That's what's going to happen if we don't make the Trump tax cuts permanent. Let's talk about Medicaid just for a second. Look, I came to Washington, D.C. to save Medicaid, to save Medicare. I want to make sure that we're strengthening Medicaid for those that need it the most. You know, it's only in Washington, D.C. can you increase spending $50 to $100 billion a year on a project, on a program like Medicaid, and people are still going to call that a cut. So we're going to do everything possible to make sure that we preserve Medicaid for those who need it the most. You know, Tony, that's what the Bible says that we should do, that we should be taking care of those that are the least amongst us, and I want to make sure that Medicaid dollars are going to those who really need the help.
Let's talk about that for just a moment, Dr. Marshall, because the Biden administration in the last 4 years expanded Medicaid significantly to those who are younger, able-bodied men who have the ability to work and to acquire insurance. And so I want to underscore something you said there is to save Medicaid. If you expand it to include everything, you'll end up having coverage for no one.
Yeah, Tony, you nailed it. We have over 90 million people on Medicaid now, over 90 million people. It was meant to be on those who need that help, that need that hand up. It was meant for people, for folks in a nursing home maybe that can't afford nursing home care, or folks with a disability. The poorest amongst it was who it was meant for. But we've increased spending on Medicaid 50% in 5 years. It's on a rocket ship launch right now as far as the amount of money we're spending on it. And to your point, there's probably 7 million healthy men out there of working age that are not working. So that's disappointing. I think that giving people a hand up is important rather than just a handout. I think a job brings dignity, it brings purpose as well. But to be giving young, healthy men Medicaid or food stamps for that matter just doesn't make sense to us. And I think it'd be really the best thing for their mental health is to help them get a job. If they don't have the education for that job, then let's help them figure that out as well.
And it protects those who truly need help from Medicaid, because it will be there for them if you do it responsibly. And I think that is what the Trump administration is pursuing. Speaking of using government money wisely when it comes to health care issues, tell us about the No Subsidies for Gender Transition Procedures Act, which you have proposed along with House member Claudia Tenney.
Right. So again, this is Congress doing its job. President Trump's already made an executive order that we won't be spending your taxpayer money on this transgender surgeries or transgender hormones. Believe it or not, Tony, the federal government is spending about $200 million a year on these transgender procedures. And I don't have to tell you that there's typically an underlying mental health issue going on with this person, and that mental health issue is still going to be there after these surgeries. But the big problem to me is that these surgeries are irreversible. One of the things we were taught in medical school, sometimes we have to save patients from themselves. And this would be one of those procedures I think we should be scared of, that they are irreversible. They're going to cause infertility. They're going to cause chronic scarring and pain as well. Typically, one surgery leads to more and more and more. So I just don't know how a physician can look a patient in the eye and say this is a good idea. And then, spiritually, I think it's a slap in the face of our Creator.
And again, when you look at the fact that we have $36 trillion in debt, and we want to be able to provide, as you said earlier, we want to help those who truly need help, we're going to be in a position where we can help no one because our economy implodes because of the debt that our government's carrying.
Yeah, we do have a finite amount of resources. This country is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. We've been so blessed, but we need to be good stewards as well. I think that we have all the money we need to do the right things, but when you're spending $1 trillion on interest, $1 trillion a year on interest, $1 trillion on Medicaid, $1 trillion on Medicare. All of a sudden, those start adding up to some serious numbers, Tony. But we're $1 trillion of interest every year, and we're spending $2 trillion more than we make each year as well. Just adding to that national debt. This is the biggest long-term problem that our country faces: is this national debt issue.
On your bill, No Subsidies for Gender Transition Procedures Act, which would protect minors from these irreversible surgeries and experimental use of drugs. As you pointed out, the president, by executive order, has taken steps on this, but so much of what the president has done by executive order can be undone, and that's why it is important to codify this into law, into the statutes. Do you believe you'll be able to get a vote on this in the U.S. Senate?
I do, and the great thing with the way we're writing this is we can get it in the reconciliation bill. I know this is deep stuff here, but the reconciliation bill is one of the few things that only takes 50 votes on the Senate to pass something, and we can't get policy in there. But if it has to do with saving money or spending more money, we can typically get this into the bill. So hopefully the parliamentarian will agree with this. It survives that famous bird bath I'm sure you've talked to your listeners about as well. So we're hopeful we'll get a vote on it in the reconciliation bill.
So what's the time frame in which you'll find out whether or not you'll be able to have this a vote on this in the reconciliation?
I think we're probably a month away. There's probably some other things ahead of this right now for the parliamentarian to decide. But I'm sitting here thinking if the House can get their work done by Memorial Day, get us this bill over here shortly thereafter, that maybe the first week or two in June we're going through the bird bath with all the different issues, get the parliamentarians' agreement, and maybe we'll get the president's one big beautiful bill done by July the 4th. Another great president for President Trump.
A final question for you, Senator Roger Marshall. I've been talking to the House Speaker. He's been on the program discussing the issue of the fiscal cliff, where the debt ceiling, we're very close to that. He's concerned that we will get there before July, probably sometime in June. Is there a sense that in the Senate that we got to move quicker on this reconciliation bill, which will include the debt ceiling increase?
Well, Tony, I would tell you that Congress typically functions better when there is a gun at our head, so to speak, and this is certainly the proverbial gun at our head. I think it'll be a big motivator to help us get something done sooner. And to be honest, I don't know what's going to look different in July that's going to look in June. So I think we'll use this to our advantage to get something done sooner than later.
All right, Senator Roger Marshall, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today on Washington Watch.
Thank you, Tony.